Hello, fellow fleet and mobility players. Welcome. So today we're hanging out with Adam Orth from Siemens to talk about their massive EV fleet expansion. They managed to increase their U.S. fleet past 250 electric vehicles to, I don't know, around 10 times more, I guess. But he can talk to you more about it. And this took place, over the past year. So without skipping a beat in daily operations, Adam is going to break down, the blueprint they use, some real world charging lessons, supply chain realities, I guess, and what the next decade looks like as fleet and logistics and corporate travel officially team up. So, hi, Adam. How's it going? Good to talk to you.
Likewise, thank you, Daniel, for the time today.
Yeah. Thank you too. Where are you talking from? Where you at?
Minneapolis, Minnesota, so
Minneapolis,
middle of the
Minnesota.
U.S.
Okay, cool. And so I'm just going to have about, I guess, around 5 questions. Let's see how our time goes. We're going to be talking for about 15 minutes or so, maybe a little bit less. So, of course, so growing your EV deployment is, it's a massive achievement. A lot of cars we're talking about. And what was the turning point or primary driver that allowed Siemens to scale up this quickly and without, disrupting daily service operations?
Yeah, I think the biggest turning point for us was we stopped looking at electrification as a vehicle decision and started looking at it as an operational decision. So a lot of the organizations around the U.S. Are saying, okay, which EV should we buy? We started asking, what does the job require? That said, we did a field study, conducted field studies across our biggest locations in the U.S., talked with technicians, challenged assumptions, weighed equipment, open vans, and that in itself not only created opportunities for vehicles to be configured differently, but be configured more efficiently. That operational audit, if you will, gave us the confidence we needed to proceed. Instead of trying to electrify an existing fleet model, trying to do it one for one, we redesigned the fleet around actual business needs. So once we had the right vehicle for the right role and the right route, then scaling becomes that much easier. The second factor was leadership support. We gave ourselves permission to test and to learn and to fail and not attempt a one size fits all solution setup. And that helped us, to act quicker, to be quicker, and work through helping people on their everyday jobs, and looked at it as the EV had to be a better tool for the job, not simply a different powertrain.
Yeah, seems like so. You got to look at talk to other people as well. You got to look at more kind of like on more macro, not so much focus on
Right.
this car, whatever car. And then you mentioned, of course, you have to have buy-in from your team to okay, like we're on the same page, which is good. And speaking of your team, so I was talking with your team, and they mentioned that the model that you are have deployed, it can be replicated at scale. So we see that the fleet is growing quite a bit. And could you give us an idea of what are the core pillars of this blueprint? What and that maybe other large enterprises fleets can copy?
Absolutely. When people ask, for a blueprint, they're often expecting a vehicle list. I think the most valuable lesson is the decision-making framework that goes actually behind the deployment. So, the first pillar in general is data. Understand your fleet, figure out how it actually operates. The routes, the route lengths, the payloads, the jobs, the technicians, and it becomes a lot more effective than the assumptions that you often started with. The second pillar is operational validation. You do all that work, you ask all those questions. You can't scale until the solution is something that is going to work for the field. And with us having a heavy service focus, it's even more important that they need to be tied to real world operations and measurable outcomes. The The third part, the third pillar is ecosystem collaboration. And this one, you can't stress it enough. No company can do it alone. The OEMs, the upfitters, telematics providers, charging partners, fleet management partners, and then of course, our business leaders. Some of the biggest breakthroughs that we came to was from close collaboration with suppliers that were not only willing to innovate, but they were willing to do it alongside us, which makes step by step that much easier. But of course, the final pillar is change management. Fleet electrification is so much about transformation and people transformation, technology transformation. Drivers also need that confidence that the vehicle is going to do the work, and that the leaders are confident in the business case. But both are essential if you want to scale successfully.
Yeah, so it sounds like first you need to know your fleet. Of course, every fleet is different. Yeah, so knowing how your fleet operates, the needs, and yeah, so everybody out there. We're talking about primarily this is a service fleet. So there are a lot of companies out there with large fleets, electric vehicle fleets, but a lot of their core business might be logistics or delivery, or maybe they might use it for their sales force. So what Adam was telling me is basically it's a service fleet. So and then
Right.
Of course, like you said, collaboration with with suppliers, with your team is important. Yeah. So yeah.
If I had to summarize the blueprint in one sentence, it would be start with operations, validate the data, and scale what works.
And talking about suppliers, from a supply chain perspective, what do you need most from your industry suppliers right now to help you complete the remaining half? Because they got a lot more to go. There's still Siemens, they're planning to, I guess, electrify your whole fleet. Is that it? By
Correct.
2030? But yeah.
Correct.
So quite a bit more. And so regarding your suppliers, what do you need from your industry suppliers right now to help you complete the remaining half of your electrification goal, by 2030?
Yeah, and that's unique for me as well, because I do sit within procurement, supply chains. So the encouraging news is that the industry is in a much greater position than it was even a few years ago. But what we need most is help with that ecosystem that I'm working through and creating and assisting with, if you will. But we need that continued collaboration, continued innovation. Fleet operators need a wider range of vehicle configurations, and the real world has to overlap with the innovation, has to overlap with the collaboration. Some people, all the service fleets, like you mentioned, service fleets aren't all the same. Some need SUVs, some need pickups, and as we all know, we have a much heavy. There's also a need for a much greater medium duty space within EVs. And then there's heavy duties as well. But the more choices available, the easier it is to find a vehicle that's going to match that job. The other piece is suppliers. We need suppliers to continue to help reduce the complexity. A lot of pushback people have is regarding the complexity of EVs, and that's often the scariest part. Upfitting, charging integration, telematics, data visibility, maintenance support, and driver adoption. The organizations that make those pieces work together is what creates the most value. And finally, we need the industry to keep sharing lessons learned. Like our discussion today, fleet electrification is advancing quickly, but all of us benefit with best practice sharing, and organizations like the EV100 and SEVA, they've all been valuable to corporations like Siemens, because it allows us to work together and help shorten the learning curve for those that may have just started, or those that are accelerating in a manner that we have.
Yeah, I'm looking behind you at the picture because I see. So you're talking about small vehicles. You got medium duty, heavy duty in the back as well. I guess you have all this at your company, right?
Absolutely. We've got light duty and, to that point, medium duty and electric tractors. But many aspects.
As far as Adam was telling me that the number of electric vehicles they have now, it's hard to like pinpoint a number because it's growing. So I believe it's maybe over 2,000 or something like that. But so how much are we talking about at the end?
Currently as a fleet we're over 8,000. But to that point we will be halfway done by the end of this year. So that said, we're making progress, but from a timeline standpoint, it takes a significant year-over-year replacement to get to those types of goals.
Must be a lot of work. And are they
a lot of different vehicles, a lot of replacements, and then everything we spoke about prior, where it has to be continuous.
Are they mostly like light vehicles or a mixture?
Because the bulk of our acceleration has come within our service fleet, we have shifted a lot of our small vans and large vans to the electric SUVs, and then the larger vans are going to the electric pickup here. And then within our facilities and some of our transportation stuff, we've got electric yard spotter and then electric heavies for moving product.
Okay. And looking, to the future a little bit. So of course your role covers both fleet and mobility services. So looking ahead, how do you see traditional fleet logistics and broader corporate mobility and travel, like maybe kind of like blending together over the next decade? And what kind of like things do you foresee? What do you think in the industry?
Yeah, I would say that's another benefit of sitting within procurement and working for Siemens Corp. I get to work with the businesses, work through their challenges, work through their operations. I think we're moving toward a future where organizations manage mobility as a connected ecosystem, and instead of a collection of separate programs. So historically, fleet, travel, facilities, charging infrastructure, workplace mobility, was often an independent and worked independently, but technology is increasingly allowing those systems to actually work together. A lot of it too goes back to the data piece, but for example, the same data that allows you to optimize a route within an organization can also help you understand what the workplace charging demand is, what employee travel behavior is, what energy consumption and energy management is also a key thing that's coming into play. But then, when it comes down to it, you have emissions performance as well when you're talking CO2. But the more decisions become more connected and more informed at that point, and that's where I see the opportunity. I also think that mobility will become much more outcome focused, and by outcome focused, I mean based on user experience, how mobility is to be consumed. Instead of asking, well, what vehicle should we provide? Organizations are going to continue to be looking at, okay, what's the best way to move people, equipment? What services are most efficient? What are most sustainable? Sometimes it's going to be an EV. Sometimes it's going to be something else, and we know that, especially within mobility services, it's it's shared mobility, smart routing, technologies that we haven't even applied yet. But the common thread, is data, flexibility, and user experience. The organizations that succeed, they're going to end up being the ones that create mobility systems that are easy for employees, efficient for the business, and absolutely aligned with the long-term sustainability goals.
Yeah. I hear you. Just one last thing. One word. So what do you do, Adam, when you're not working and you just want to enjoy? What word? Just one word, because we're running out of time.
Sports.
Sports? Oh, you like sports? Okay, cool. Yeah, well. Okay, so that's about it. So FMT Insiders watching. So this, of course, has been an insightful interview. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. And thank you again, Adam. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.